Hey everyone, Joe Grand here to answer some of the Hackaday Prize interview questions. As you can see, I'm sort of crammed into a makeshift temporary office as we get settled into our new house, and it's basically an old pantry, and there's not a lot of room. So if I suddenly disappear from the frame because I'm trying to fit into it, just pretend I'm still here. I'll eventually make it back into the frame somehow. To give you guys a little background, I am a product designer, an electrical engineer, longtime hardware hacker. Let's see, what else? Washed up TV host, daddy, a runner, and now I have the honor of being a judge for the Hackaday Prize, which is totally cool. So let's just jump right into these questions. And let's see. Tell us what you're doing in your professional life these days. So my time is sort of split between a few different things. One of them is doing hardware design. Even though I grew up as a hacker, I've always loved designing things as well. So tearing them apart and then also designing things. So I spend part of my time designing products, mostly consumer electronics, hobbyist modules for people to use. So some of you guys might be familiar with some of my stuff that's being sold through Parallax. I have a laser rangefinder and a speech synthesis module and a bunch of RFID stuff and some other things. So that's sort of fun. And I don't do any of the manufacturing myself. I always work with companies to license technology out because I'm one guy and I like designing things. But I don't really like dealing with the end users a lot of times. It's just too much work to deal with manufacturing, to deal with support and all of that. So I like working with people that are much better at that than I am, and that lets me do the engineering stuff, which is what I really love. On the other side of that, I do a lot of computer security and hardware hacking stuff. So I do teach some hardware hacking training classes to teach people about how to defeat the security of hardware, which any Hackaday follower knows that that's not too difficult, at least right now. And give a lot of talks, various things. I just finished up some research on circuit board reverse engineering, which I'm super excited about, and it's just really fun. I haven't been this excited about research in a long time. And it's actually something that there's no risk of getting sued, which is great, as opposed to finding vulnerabilities in something where the vendor could always go after you. So this work was part of a DARPA Cyber Fast Track project. And Cyber Fast Track was put together to basically fund hacker groups, small businesses, individuals to do security research without having to deal with all of the red tape and bureaucracy of normal government contracts. And there's been a few of the Cyber Fast Track projects featured on Hackaday already, and hopefully there'll be more. So the work I did was about PCB printed circuit board deconstruction and delayering, various techniques, low-tech and high-tech techniques to try to get access to the inner layers of circuit boards to help with reverse engineering. Because if you have every layer of the circuit board, then you can start putting those back together, figuring out full circuit board layout, figuring out full schematic layout, and then working backwards to figure out even subsystem functionality. So that was really fun. Did a bunch of manual methods, typical sandpaper abrasion type of stuff. Did some high-end things with lasers, X-ray. Played with chemicals, which was totally crazy. It looked like my backyard looked like a meth lab for a little while. So it was fun. And that research is going to be released, the presentation I'm going to give at DEFCON 22. And then I have a formal academic paper that's coming out a week later at the Usenix Woot conference, the workshop on offensive technologies. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, definitely check it out. All right. Question number 2. You were a member of the early Loft hacking group. What was that? And are you still in touch with people from that community? Yeah, so the Loft. Loft Heavy Industries was a hacker group in Boston, Massachusetts, which basically started as a group of people that met on a BBS and needed a place to store electronic equipment. Their significant others were basically like, get all your crap out of the house and out of the kitchen and out of the bathtub. So some guys got a clubhouse in the south end of Boston, which was a really kind of nasty neighborhood at the time in the early 90s. And it sort of evolved from there, from a kind of loose-knit hacker clubhouse to a more formal place where there was basically 7 of us, ranging in age. For me, I was 16, 17. and the other guys were a little bit older than me, so they were sort of my mentors, up to maybe, I don't know, 24 years old at the time, which seemed really old. And we basically would get together and hack on things. We'd go to the MIT flea market and go through dumpsters and collect hardware and put things together, put together our own networks. And then we had an early website. I think in '92 we put it up. Started breaking security of things on our own, and then started publicizing all of those things. So this was way before hacker spaces were commonplace or maker spaces or anything like that. We were more of a private, tight-knit group than nowadays. Most of the spaces are very open to everybody. But when we started, this was a time where everybody used their handles. Nobody really knew anybody's personal information. We were doing things that were, questionable in the eyes of the people. And, it was just a totally different time. So we started finding security vulnerabilities and then would go to companies. And we went to Microsoft with some of the early Windows vulnerabilities and said, hey, here's a problem with your LAN passwords or your LAN hashes. And they'd be like, oh, no one's ever going to do that. That's totally a theoretical problem. And we're like, all right, so write some exploit code, go back to them and say, look, we're not the smartest people around. If we can do it, someone else is doing it already. And they go, oh, you're right. So one of our taglines at the Loft was making the theoretical practical. And this was just a really special time. It's hard to find a group of people that you can actually get along with and work with. And ultimately, the Loft kind of formed into At Stake, which was one of the first boutique computer security consulting companies. And it was just a kind of tumultuous, interesting journey from when we started the Loft to the year 2000 when we started At Stake. And then things sort of fell apart from there as the security industry became more of an industry and less of just guys hacking around on stuff, and a lot of money got involved in big business. So it sort of changed the landscape, but it was really fun. And yeah, a lot of us are still in touch. A lot of the guys from the Loft, but also a lot of the hackers from back in the day, you'd be surprised, are still around. A lot of them aren't very active, in the scene, but they're still doing security stuff. Lady Ada from Adafruit, fellow hacker from back in the day, and also a Hackaday prize judge. We met a long time ago, so it's fun to sort of see the same people that you grew up with now, running these businesses and doing things in the community. It's really, really pretty awesome. So let's see. You teach people how to reverse engineer hardware at Black Hat and DEFCON. What is that process like? As most of you guys know from being on Hackaday, there's just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of research going on. It's really hard to keep up with with all the security research going on, with all the hacks that people are doing. And you probably know, you can pick any piece of hardware, any piece of software, and defeat security mechanisms. That's just the way it is. It's much easier to break things than it is to design things. So a class that I teach at Black Hat and also at private companies, and I've done some workshops for hacker spaces and things like that, is all about hands-on hardware hacking and reverse engineering. So it's basically a crash course in learning about electronics and taking apart products and figuring out components, identifying components, figuring out how they're connected, monitoring communication, injecting communication, spoofing communication, looking at test points, all of these different things, using test equipment, standard test equipment, and also hacker-related tools. So we use oscilloscopes and multimeters, device programmers, stuff like that. And basically just sort of learn the process of hardware hacking and get people comfortable with hacking hardware, especially because it's such a new thing for a lot of people in the security community. So right here I actually have a bunch of boards that I use in my class that I'm getting ready to program for the Black Hat conference this summer. And this is a PIC based board. It's a microchip PIC 16F648A, which is on the top. The center part is an SSOP20 package that I'm just using for desoldering practice and a little bit of obscurity in the system. And then down at the bottom is a 8-pin serial double EEPROM. So I don't have these programmed yet, but if I did, when you turn on the device, you push some buttons and lights would blink in different patterns. But there's a security mechanism that I've put into this device, and the goal of the class, after going through the lecture and the various hands-on exercises for soldering and desoldering and probing and circuit board modifications and stuff like that, is to figure out the security mechanism and defeat it. And when you do, it turns into a game of Simon. So it's really a good way to kind of tie together all the stuff that we talk about in the class. So that's pretty much the process of the class. It's getting people to think the way that hackers think, which is sort of, sometimes it's hard to do because we kind of think a certain way, but if people haven't been involved in analyzing electronics or hacking on things or thinking that way, a lot of people coming into the class are security trained but not hardware trained, or maybe they're hardware designers but not security trained. So we're trying to mix these two together, mix hardware, mix security, get people thinking about all the different attack scenarios and all these things, because breaking hardware right now is just so easy, and I feel like it's sort of my job to try to make it a little bit harder, or at least teach people how to do it. Maybe they'll go break more products, which is great, educate more people, and maybe eventually people will see that and say, okay, now we know how hackers are breaking our products, let's try to make them more secure. Your background with fast hacking, prototype this, conferences, etc. make you perfect as a judge for the Hackaday prize. Thank you. What advice do you have to help all contestants pull it together under deadline? So probably the best known fast hacking stuff I've done is on the TV show Prototype This, which I have the DVD for right here. This was a show on Discovery Channel, 4 guys building crazy prototypes of projects. I'm in the middle, Terry Sandin over here on the left, Zaz, and Mike North. And it was basically an opportunity to show off the engineering process and the hacking process and the rapid prototyping process to mainstream viewers. It was put out by the same production company as Mythbusters, and we just did a bunch of really crazy stuff. So that was most of the rapid prototyping that we had to do. We basically had 2 weeks or 4 weeks to work on these giant projects, like a 30-foot computer-controlled water slide simulator, and a truck that could elevate itself and drive over traffic, and just all these ridiculous things that look great on TV, but you'd never really see like driving down the street. But we had to do it very quickly. We didn't have a lot of money. So we learned a lot of little tricks about rapid prototyping. I would say for the Hackaday Prize contestants or entrants, really the one thing that you don't want to get caught up in is too much of the detail up front. As engineers, I think a lot of times we want to get everything perfect right away, and we want to know all the answers right away. But with this contest, you want to at least make sure your project is going to work before you really start honing in the details. Otherwise, if you spend too much time up front working on details, you might not get the project complete. So I would say, get the base structure down, get things working as best as you can, and then start fine-tuning. Otherwise, you could run into trouble. So, we definitely want to see your project completed instead of having it, halfway done would be such a bummer. We might go as far as calling you the Grand Master, wow, of conference badge designs. What is your process for developing a new badge? That's pretty awesome. I didn't even write these questions. Pretty cool. I don't know about Grand Master, but I was definitely one of the first to design electronic badges for conferences, and I'll take that title, but I don't know about Grand Master. That's pushing it. Anyway, so yeah, I designed some electronic badges for DEFCON, starting in DEFCON 14, which was 2006, up through DEFCON 18. And as far as I know, we were like the first conference, possibly even the first public conference ever to design a functioning electronic badge that was sort of an artistic piece, but also served as the conference badge. And this was, at a time where electronics just weren't really in the hacker community very often. You had a handful of people working on stuff, but we thought it would be a great opportunity to build up some electronics and give badges to everybody, and then let them hack on them. Of course, this stuff all open source, everything's online. We had a badge hacking contest each year to see what people could do with it, and it really helped kind of build up this hardware hacking spirit, which now continues on today through various parties and conferences and everything all over the place, people who are doing electronic badges. So it was really pretty cool. But when we sprung this on people, it was a huge surprise that you could actually, manufacture 6,000 badges to give out to everybody for a few dollars each. So this one here, the first one had some blinky lights. This was immersion gold with a special cutout. Most of the normal conference badges were other colors, but I just like the gold one to put on the site. DEFCON 15 had a matrix of 95 LEDs for scrolling text messages and stuff like that, and some text cutouts here. Here are some of the other colors. And for the badge hacking contest, people did all sorts of crazy stuff. Actually, this year, I'd written a poem about this badge for the DEFCON manual, and the winning contest entry had turned that poem into a rap song, which you can actually get on my website. And rap song here based on the poem. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that was kind of fun. So that's DEF CON 15. DEF CON 16, we had a badge with an infrared transmitter and a Ninja's Eye infrared receiver. This one just had some art on both sides. SD card slots, you could actually do wire transfer or wireless transfers of data between different badges, so you could sort of share wares, if you will. If you didn't put the SD card in, then the badge would default to a TV Be Gone, Mitch Altman's TV Be Gone design, so you could turn off TVs and everything in Las Vegas, which was pretty fun. DEF CON 17, this was more of a puzzle type of thing. We had different style badges. This was multiple silk screens and multiple solder mask colors. This was from 2009, based on a Freescale MCF 56 8006. We had a microphone in there and an LED, so we were doing some fast Fourier transform types of stuff to blink the LEDs. Here's all 7 of them, 7 different types of badges all put together in a puzzle, which was fun. And these had badge-to-badge communication as well through, I think it was I2C, either I2C or SPI. So you could hook badges together and they'd talk. And then here's my favorite, DEF CON 18. This is the year I stopped. And this is an aluminum substrate circuit board with a cholesteric zero power LCD, displayed different information on there and stuff. Had a USB interface. You could write to the display with whatever stuff you wanted, and then take the battery out and it would still be fine. Different laser engraving patterns on there. And all the badge designs were really fun. You know, it was such a challenge, and the main challenge was basically coming up with a design that was sort of non-intrusive to people who didn't care about an electronic badge. Because as much as we like electronics and like, you know, hacking on things, not everybody at DEF CON cared that it was electronic. You know, they just wanted a badge, and then they went off to do the things that they like to do at DEF CON. So the challenge was to make, you know, we're making 7,000, 8,000 badges. So we wanted to make something cool, something interesting that normal people that weren't into electronics would like and wouldn't be annoyed that they're wearing this giant thing around their neck, but then that the people who were into electronics or wanted to get into hardware hacking had something that was, you know, good enough that they could actually start working with. So that was really the hardest part. And the process for all the badges, for designing these things, I don't think is any different than most anybody else's process for designing something. You know, there's a lot of research up front to kind of pick cool components, trying to do something new every year that hadn't been done before. That got increasingly hard, especially because I didn't want to have lots of batteries on there. I liked having very clean, simple designs. So trying to find things that we could do that were fun and interesting and educational and people could learn from, it was just a long mix of stuff. And we'd go through a few prototyping iterations, make sure, you know, firmware worked and the hardware looked good and everything. And as soon as it did, we just pulled the trigger and manufactured massive amounts of boards and hope everything arrived in time. So there's a bunch of presentations online. Each year I gave a presentation about the various challenges. So if you're interested, you can check those out on the website or on the DEF CON website. Let's see, what's your take on open design? Yeah, I mean, I'm a hacker. Open hardware, open software, open everything. I think it's great. You know, I think we're seeing a kind of shift in the industry and in the community where open source hardware is, you know, on one side I think it's amazing and that sharing information and educating people is the way it should be. But on the other side, we have people that are sort of coming into this industry saying, oh, open hardware, it's a license that lets me copy the design and I'll just go clone it and make my own. And like, that's totally not the spirit of open hardware. So there's benefits, huge benefits to being open. But on the other hand, then you have to deal with people that don't come from our way of life, that can come in and just clone your design. And I feel like releasing open hardware, the point is so people can learn from it, people can modify it, people can educate the designer about it. You know, someone can say, hey Joe, you know, here's a modification to your code, or I think I could do this a better way than you did. And that's awesome. You know, getting constructive criticism, getting feedback, learning from other people is the way to do it. And then having people build upon the projects instead of just taking it and running with it as is and, you know, going off on their own and rebranding it or something. So it's great, and I just don't know the best way to sort of deal with that. And I know it's been a big problem for a long time. But yeah, in general, open source hardware, open source software is great. And, you know, I will say that I think there's times where being closed is fine. I'm not going to start a whole discussion about it here, but, you know, I think there's times for everything. But in general, being open is the way to go. how has the hardware scene in the Bay Area grown and changed since you've been living there? So I've been in the Bay Area for a long time. We moved up to San Francisco in 2007 to start filming Prototype This, and stayed until just about a month ago, where we finally moved out of San Francisco. So I got to sort of see a little peek and change in the hardware industry, if you will, or the hardware design community. When we first started filming Prototype This, the community was very small. There was a handful of people building kits and stuff like that, but it was a very small community. We were using a basic stamp, which is still a great prototyping module, but the Arduino had barely existed at that point. I think I'd made a video with Bree Pettis about it somewhere around that time in 2007 about the Arduino, and which is a hilarious video, but it was a brand new platform, so the community just wasn't really there. So we were really on our own, kind of hacking stuff together. And I saw there are a lot of hobbyist stuff, great Dorkbot community out there, great, art community and people hacking on stuff. But what I saw more and more, and especially when I left, is just a lot of people getting into hardware design and into hardware products that don't normally come from that world. And there's a lot of VCs getting involved in funding hardware companies, and a lot of money floating around, a lot of really bad ideas and a lot of really bad companies that are being created, and basically just designing with technology because they can, not because it's going to solve a problem or it's going to do something great. It's just to get into this market and sort of make a lot of money off of it. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think making money is fine, but I don't think that should be the primary driving factor. It's like if you do what you love and you're dedicated to it, the money will eventually follow. But people are just coming into the industry with a different mindset. So I don't know. I feel like the industry, at least in the Bay Area, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but I just feel like the goal is more to start a company, get rich and famous, as opposed to making something cool, right? Like think about Woz and Jobs back in the day with the Apple. Like that was, they made something because they loved it. Woz wanted his own personal computer. He made it. He loved it. And then Jobs took it and was able to, turn that into a massive company. And, the Apple of today isn't the Apple of yesterday, but it started with true passion. And I don't see that passion as much in the Bay Area and just in general, really. And hopefully we can get back to that. It's a hard thing to do, but I just feel like there's so much potential in hardware and so much potential in hardware design and so many just amazing, smart people out there. And I just don't want, the wool to get pulled over their eyes and have them feel like the only way to be successful is to, get a lot of money from VCs and become rich. Because, there's lots of other ways to do it. All right, let's see. We love your JTagulator, especially the name. Tell us why it's the perfect tool for the Hackaday prize. So the JTagulator, if you don't know, let's see, I think I have one here. This is a device that I designed about a year ago, and I'm still working on revisions to the firmware and everything. This is a device that basically you can hook up to 24 unknown connections or unknown test points on a target circuit board and connect through USB to a PC and have a terminal program running. And basically it will detect if there's a JTAG interface or a asynchronous serial UART interface. So it basically helps with the hardware hacking process, so you don't have to manually go through and figure things out as much. It was designed for two reasons. One of them was to make hardware hacking easier for non-hardware hackers, to get into the process. And then the other was just to save time for us. If we're poking around on a board, just save time, verify the pinout using the JTagulator. It's sort of fun. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to add to it. So maybe turning it into a logic analyzer with the SIGROC platform, possibly adding some open OCD support. So once you discover the JTAG interface, you can now start manipulating the hardware you're connecting to, adding more interfaces for different types of on-chip debug protocols and stuff like that. So lots of fun, but really it's a parallax propeller-based general purpose design development board. It's a propeller with a bunch of level shifters and some buffers and input protection circuitry, and that's it. So really cool platform, really fun to hack on. I don't know, I'm not exactly sure if it's the perfect tool for the Hackaday prize. I think it could be useful, if somebody wants to hack an existing product and find out where the JTAG interface is. But I feel like most of the entries that are coming in are more designed from the ground up as opposed to hacking some existing platform, but still a great tool if I say so myself. All right. Last question, number 9. What could people do with their Hackaday prize entries to impress you? Send cash? No. Send candy. Yeah, candy. A lot of candy would be good. I don't know. I think that, the real thing for me is I want to see projects that just, blow my socks off and make my eyes just open wide and have me go, holy crap, how did they do that? Like, that's really cool. And I know that's hard to do a lot with contests because you don't know what judges are looking for, and you don't know what other people are submitting. So I feel like if you just work on something that you're dedicated to and that you love, that passion's going to show. That's going to show through, and you're going to end up getting above that noise and getting to something great. There's so many projects out there now, and it's so hard to keep up. But every once in a while on Hackaday, I'll see something that's just like, damn, that's really cool. They put in the effort to really do it, and it's not. It's not just throwing together a few blocks of, a few existing modules. It's, really doing something creative. And I don't know. So, basically just looking for stuff that impresses me. As subjective as that is, I don't know. Every judge is going to have different things that they're looking for, but I just want to be blown away. And I know that people can do it. So I think that's it. Yeah, 9 questions. Thanks for taking the time listening. And yeah, that's it. Joe Grand signing off, and I'll see you in the upcoming weeks as we start reviewing entries. See you later.